care of, you know? So the same thing, we want to make sure that we don't put poison in our body with just drinking water that you don't know where it's coming from, or even worse, some people buy, you know, simple filters that go on a little faucet because they think, oh, it takes away the taste and the odor, so it must be good enough because we hear that the source of the water is perfect, but it's not. You know, if you see how they treat the water, it's like going to the butcher and you see how they cut the meat and they kill the animal. You probably, even though you love meat, you probably would say, well, I don't want that meat because I saw how they kill it. So the same thing with the water. If you go to the water treatment, you'll be like, oh, I don't want to drink this water because it was so dirty before they just added chemicals. And then just all of a sudden there's, you know, magic happened. It turned crystal clear, right? And then you get that to your house and you still smell that chemical. Chlorine, chloramines, you know, other things, instead of using ozone and other things, right? Dr. Howard, I mean, ozone treatment is awesome. I mean, some countries out there that are doing it and the water is perfect. Like in Paris, they have water fountains all over the place. They're giving water for free. They are actually encouraging people to just carry their bottles and just fill it anywhere. And they taste great because it's done with ozone. So it's killing things really, you know? In terms of heavy metals, you want to still remove those physically. And that's where the purification system is required. Because when you have heavy metals, when you boil water, people think, oh, you know, I'm boiling water, so it must be good enough. Well, you only boil water if you need to make sure that there's no, you know, microorganism like bacteria and fungus and mold and viruses. Other than that, there's no other reason to boil water. As a matter of fact, it's not a good thing. Because now, if you're stirring soup, you're making soup, pasta and whatnot, you know, with tap water, and that has lead or that has chromium 6 or any kind of other heavy metal that is not good for you, high levels of mercury and so forth, even copper from the pipes. So now what happens is this metal, if you look at it microscopically, it looks like a splashed egg, like a, you know, fried egg. They blend, so two eggs, they become one, right? Now that's harder to remove from your organs. So you want to make sure that you remove that before you cook. Because if you cook with that, it's going to get bigger. You just don't see it because it's microscopic. You know, but now you're still making it worse. Now, if you actually see the sediment settling down when you boil water, like you take well water and you boil it, you see the stuff settling in the bottom. It could be hardness and everything, but all the heavy metals just tend to go in the bottom. My mom used to boil water, right, when I was a kid, but she would just take the upper half of the pot after letting it sit down, and you can taste the difference. But if you stir that in the bottom, you see like you know, mud and stuff. So you don't want to have that in your food and your organs.
It concentrates all the metals.
Absolutely.
Well, there's Jose, there's an important thing to think about when you're talking about boiling water. When you're taking water out of a tap, it's loaded with microorganisms, among other, chemicals and contaminants.
It's gas.
So now imagine this. Imagine taking some human feces and dry the human feces, and then take 1/8 of a teaspoon or a 1/16 of a teaspoon of that dried human feces and grind it into a powder. Now add that 1/16 of a teaspoon into a pint of water. You won't see it there.
Absolutely.
So when you boil water, what you're taking in are hopefully dead organisms if you boiled it long enough. In essence, you're taking in dead organisms. It's like taking in feces. Okay?
Absolutely.
Which is waste in essence.
Absolutely.
And people don't realize that if you don't start with purified water to begin with, you've got a problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and that's straight on the point, Dr. Howard. So remember, not only the fact that in our case, we have groundwater and the water is recycled, meaning that whatever you flush eventually is going to get to the aquifers. They're going to pump that, just take the solids out and put chemicals. None of the little tiny things will be removed. Plus, you're going to get more stuff from the pipes that have been there for decades, centuries, right? So you get all the rust and everything else from the pipes. And you see them even with color sometimes, you know, rings on the toilets and everything. And you bring it to a sample to the water district and they say safe to drink. You know, so now the thing is, the feces is one thing, but then what about pharmaceuticals? You know, people that are taking hormone pills, medication of every single type, you know, all that are traced now. Tylenol, all of that is traced in the water. But, you know, they seem to be okay because it's low dose. And that's why a lot of, you know, things are changing,
It's
right?
not gonna kill you today. It's gonna kill you a couple of years
Yeah,
later.
it's long term. So they're okay if it's like, you know, 10 years down the line because, you know, they just care about right now and not being sued. But EPA and Water Quality Association, they both say we do the best we can now at the point of exit. It's up to the homeowner or the person who's drinking the water, bathing with it, that has to do something if they want to. Because in fact, they're doing a very good job. I mean, if you see that water, how it comes from the point that they treat it, they take it to the point that they actually send it to the homes is miracle. You know, it's like night and day. But the reason why they have to put all these chemicals is also to make sure that viruses and other things don't get into the water and doesn't kill people right away. So, but you want to make sure that you take that saran wrap out of it. The saran wrap is like a sandwich. You know, you wrap it, you protect it from dust and whatnot, unto the point where the person that's going to eat it grabs it, takes it out, and eats it. So nobody eats a sandwich with saran wrap on. Well, that's what's happening with tap water. We're drinking water with all the chemicals. That all that has to be removed, and the heavy metals. And the only way to remove heavy metals is with a specific filter that removes heavy metals, or a purifier that doesn't care what kind of heavy metal you have, it'll remove it or reduce it by far. You know, so then not only you have better water, better body, optimal body, but also you're going to be able to taste the difference. You will be able to make your coffee, your teas, and so forth if you wish, you know, and with less of the nutrient or the ingredients, because water is going to dissolve that more. So if you take purified water and tap water and put it, let's say, in a microwave, which I don't use microwaves, but if you have to use a microwave, you put it on for a tea, on a tea bag, you're going to notice that the one with the purified water is going to be darker. The tea itself is going to be darker because it's going to take more, absorb more. It's more aggressive. So it cleanses your body better. You just got to make sure that you have proper, you know, supplements, you eat right. Yes, purified water will, you know, take away some of your nutrients, but not much, only what it touches. But you have to make sure that you eat properly as well, because what it takes out is very minimal. And then we have systems that are enhanced with, you know, hydrogen and alkaline, just to make sure that the water is not so aggressive in the acidic side, because we want to make sure that it's neutral or alkaline. And that's basically what we do. So right now we're working on something special for Dr. Howard in his lab, and it's gonna be good.
Thank you, Jose. I just want to say that, you know, the focus of this presentation is going to be about belly fat, bloating, and you know, gut bacteria. So I think all of you have something to say about that. Viruses, what damages our gut, and a lot of the things that do that come from outside through the air and through the water we drink. And then, you know, all the viruses and you know, different things that can affect our body's ability to function optimally. Dr. Howard Robbins is probably one of the few people that can kill all of it. And then he has the supplement that actually can restore the digestive function. So let's, as we discuss, you know, continue this conversation, keep that in mind. That's the focus: belly fat, bloating, gut biome, and all the viruses and things that can affect that.
Well, let me finish up with what Jose was saying on the importance of what Jose was saying. The two places that I spend most of my time is in my home and in my office. And I think for most people, that's where most people spend most of their time. In fact, now with more and more people working out of home, if they have a job at all, it becomes even more important that we have control over the few things that we have control over in our environment. And the most important to me is the water that we drink. My house has a whole house water purification system, so that even the showering water, the toilet bowl water, all the water that we use for washing is purified because Jose put the system in. In addition to that, And remember, you got to change those filters every so often, you know, depending on your water usage. These things don't just go on forever. It's important to monitor that, and Jose does, and periodically he'll come and do that for me. But then I take that purified water and I put it through another system, a reverse osmosis system, because I want that water to be, that we're going to drink and use for cooking, to be as pure as it possibly can get. And then I decided that a pure water, if you want to call it that, has a neutral pH. It's neither acidic nor alkaline. It's called 7.0. Most of the water that people drink and buy is acidic, which leads to bacterial infections and things like that. Bacteria like to live in acid. What I learned is that if you can keep the pH in the 7.2 to 7.4 range, you're in a very healthy range. You're not promoting virus, fungus, yeast, or mold, nor are you promoting or allowing bacteria to overwhelm. So a slight alkaline pH is the ideal. So when I had Jose set my system up, we set it up so that purified water goes through this RO system and then goes through some filters that make it slightly alkaline. So all the water that my dogs drink, that we drink, that we use for cooking when we make pasta or rice or whatever, organic, of course, but this all makes a difference because the human body, Jose, is not 50% water. It's actually 60%, with some organs being as much as 70% water. How can you have a healthy immune system if you're dehydrated? And most people walk around dehydrated and they don't even realize it. If you're not drinking 3 to 4 liters of water a day, if you're not urinating without having any urination problems, approximately once every hour, then you're in a dehydrated state. And I'm not talking about using caffeine beverages that make you have to go every 20 minutes. I'm talking about drinking healthy liquids. All right. And making tea, making any herbal teas, making any of the juices you want to drink. The basis of it is all water. So if you don't have healthy water to begin with, nothing that you're going to be ingesting is going to be healthy. And there's no way for you to have a healthy immune system. Now, when we talk about bloating, by the way, Jose, I'm done with you now. This is the greatest water man in the world that I know of, and I've interviewed several for my radio shows that I've done over the years. He is the most knowledgeable, the most up to date. He has the latest equipment. He does the installation himself, so you know it's done right. All these things make a difference when you want to do business with somebody. That's what I found out.
Jose, you got to hire Dr. Robbins as your spokesperson. This is a treasure trove of credibility you got there.
Right.
And I don't get paid for this. It's the beauty of it is I'm telling the truth, and it's not because he does anything special for me. And just, in fact, he charges me like he charges everybody else. His fees are reasonable and fair, and I pay for everything, so I can denigrate him or laudate him. I owe him nothing, and I'm telling you, he's amazing.
All I ask for is an honest opinion, and thank you very much, Dr. Howard.
And
that's what I like doing business with, people that are honest and true. So now, when we talk about bloating and weight and issues like that, it's a very interesting thing. In the past 3 years, I've become very involved in biome, the bacteria that live in our gut and in the wall of our colon. And what's interesting to note that in just the past 10 years, there's been over 15,000 papers and studies published on the effects of our gut bacteria on our body. And what we're learning is that the gut bacteria control almost everything that goes on in our body. Gut bacteria can control your mood because there's a gut-brain connection. Gut bacteria control whether you'll become diabetic or not. Gut bacteria can control, so it controls your sugar levels. Gut bacteria can control whether you become autistic or not. There's links to it with dozens of papers and studies in each of these areas that have been published on our National Library of Medicine, PubMed. So one of the more interesting ones is on weight and why people can't lose weight. And apparently, if you don't have healthy gut biome, you can't lose weight. You can diet correctly and it'll come right back on as soon as you stop eating. Just simple foods in terms of fasting or whatever, and you go back to eating a healthy diet. Even a healthy diet, people have trouble losing weight. Now, bloating is another issue, okay? And that's also controlled by gut biome. And let me explain. Virtually everybody that this broadcast is going to go out to has had the unfortunate experience of having to take an antibiotic, even once in their lifetime. When you take an antibiotic, it kills all the bad bacteria with the infection that you want to kill. But it also kills all the good boys that live in the wall of your colon. Now, many people will go, well, I take probiotics. So with probiotics, I'm going to be able to replenish all that. I don't have to worry. I thought so too. Was I not surprised to learn that it doesn't just work that way and that easily? In fact, a television program, 60 Minutes, which loves to do horrible exposés on things. I mean, they're looking for, to sell advertisement a lot of the time. So they try to be very shocking. But they did have some very important people in the probiotic world come on when they did a segment just a little over a month ago. I think it was back in July, on probiotics. And what these specialists from around the world, big names, said was the capsule, powder, and tablet probiotics are basically going in one end of your body through your mouth and coming out the other end. So when they measure the amount of biome in your feces, which they can do, it's loaded with it. But that's the problem. You don't want it in your feces. You want it in the wall of your gut, where it's supposed to do some good. Now, what do you mean by that? Well, healthy bacteria live in the wall of our gut. There's sometimes as many as several thousand species that can live in a human being, because there's variations on many different strains of bacteria. Well, these healthy biome not only control all these different functions throughout our body, but they also keep yeast, candida, and many of the people listening to this know what candida albicans is, and all the various versions of candida, albicans being only one. And when the good gut biome is destroyed rapidly within a day of taking antibiotics, yeast gets to overgrow. That's important for several reasons. The first thing is that yeast takes complex carbohydrates, which are healthy for us, as we know, as well as simple carbohydrates, which are not healthy for us, refined flour products, sugar, things like that. And it eats it. And in that eating process, fermentation takes place. With fermentation, you get a release of alcohol. And some people are very sensitive to that and have alcoholic, believe it or not, alcoholic-like reactions without even knowing that they're producing alcohol in their body, if they're very sensitive. On the other side of that same coin, actually maybe the same side of that coin, they're also producing carbon dioxide. That's part of what fermentation does. Open up a can of beer and watch all the bubbles come out. Okay? And not even kombucha. Let's keep it healthier. With kombucha, there's fermentation. So there's alcohol in kombucha, as well as fermentation, carbon dioxide. Well, when it happens in your gut, you're going to get bloating. A lot of low back pain is caused by bloating from yeast. What happens is you eat a big meal, and it's loaded with carbohydrates, even good healthy stuff like rice or whatever. The yeast eats, all of this gets converted to sugar. That's how we absorb it. Well, this sugar causes fermentation. The carbohydrates ferment. The yeast produces carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide rises up in your colon wall like a balloon, and it can press against the nerves coming out of your lower spine. Thus, you get low back pain. You lay down in bed and you feel better. So a lot of people like to rest and lay down after they eat. In fact, a lot of people like to eat in a reclined position because it's more comfortable. The gas is not pressing up against your spine. And you know that because you're belching or you're, leaving wind. Okay. And that's a sign that you're overproducing carbon dioxide in your gut because there's too much yeast. Well, it gets worse. I wish it could get better, but it gets worse. The body has to try and control that yeast overgrowth as well as keep it in check along with good biome. There's part of our immune system called the T cell system. The T cell system fights virus, fungus, yeast, and mold. So if the T cell system is chronically fighting this candida overgrowth, now it's overwhelmed and unable to fight viral infections, for example, better. And this is one of the reasons why we're hearing young people are dying from COVID virus who shouldn't even know they got it in the first place. If we take a look at their lives, we will probably find they had multiple doses of antibiotics. And if they didn't take it orally, for those of the listeners that are thinking, well, I don't take antibiotics, I took them when I was a kid. The question is, do you ever eat red meat or chicken that isn't organic or farm-raised fish? And maybe you don't eat it at home, but do you ever go out to eat? They're not using organic meat and chicken. And they're not using fish that's free of antibiotics. And even if you burn that stuff, you don't burn off the antibiotics. So these people are always getting doses of it. So now you have young people with yeast overgrowing like crazy. Very likely they're on diets, as we pointed out earlier when we were talking, that are loaded with sugar. The average American, you say, eats 150 pounds of sugar a year. Some of these kids could be eating more than that. Not only eating more than that, they could be eating McDonald's and other places with refined flour products that add sugar. You ever notice why McDonald's French fries are all perfectly golden? Because they're coated in sugar. It's well, you don't know that, but it's well known. All these companies coat their French fries in a liquid sugar so that when they cook up, they all come out golden. Okay? So all this stuff is what's going into them. Now they get a COVID virus that they should have fought off, not even know they had it or had, other than if they did a test. And you're hearing 18, 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds are dying from the COVID virus that shouldn't even know they got it. All because their gut is unhealthy. Now, I hate to offer just negative things. That's not what we're all about. SCHO has never been about that. So there has to be an answer. Okay. And part of that answer is what I got involved in for my patients, because as everybody knows, I do intravenous ozone therapy for 30 years and over 365,000 treatments. And what we found was that ozone will kill the good boys too, just not instantly like antibiotics do. So it became essential to put healthy bacteria back into the colon wall. We're not interested in aiding digestion. So I turned originally to capsule powder and tablet probiotics like everybody likes to take. And what we found was, and what we learned is that 90+% of them are destroyed in the stomach. They never even reach the intestine. They're already in suspended animation. They've been dehydrated from a live bacteria to make it into a capsule, powder, or tablet. So they're asleep, they're dormant. Now they have to come back to life. What happens is some of them do, most of them don't. And if you listen to that 60 minutes interview they did with these specialists from around the world on microbiome, the doctors and whatnot, I was shocked to know that they know what I've learned. That this is exactly what happens. I would have expected them to have people lying about these things, but these doctors were telling the truth. They don't even understand. So they said, so why do people feel better taking some of these products? And it's interesting because some people do feel better. Their answer was the placebo effect. You take it and expect to feel better, so you feel better. Because when they examined the feces, they found that almost everything that was ingested was coming out in the feces. In fact, capsules sometimes didn't even open up, or they were partially open and found in the feces. All right. So there's where I had to find an answer for all this. And what I found was a company that made a very good product, but not what I needed. So taking all the complaints from the Chan School of Public Health at Harvard, from the Cleveland Clinic, as well as my own concerns, I got the company to make changes in their product, and that's what Doctor's Biome became. It's a very special probiotic drink. Okay, a very special probiotic drink. First of all, it's 100% organic juice. So all the bacteria are living from inception, when they're born, in the juice when you ingest it, from inception to ingestion. Secondly, and by the way, 100% organic juice is not an easy thing to say in this country, because our FDA says 95% organic is 100%. So we had to find a juice company that would make 100% organic juice. Mint, kale, lettuce, cucumber, celery, apple, lemon juice. The next thing is we wanted to leave fiber in it, because that's what bacteria love to eat. They love to eat the fiber. So the juice had to be a little thicker than a watery juice. And when you have probiotics plus prebiotics, and that's what the fiber is, mixed together, they actually have a name for it. And there's several thousand papers written on it now. It's called a synbiotic. That's spelled S-Y-N as in Nancy. Synbiotic. And if you look that up, you'll find it all over the internet, information about synbiotics. Now, there's two types of synbiotics, and the type you want the most is not a synbiotic in a capsule, powder, or tablet, because they're not going to survive the stomach very well. You want one that's alive and living, and that's why keeping them alive and living in an organic juice that has the prebiotic in it makes this what they call a complementary synbiotic. And that is the healthiest probiotic that anyone can take. The next thing was which bacteria to put in it. So we found that all bacteria do not work and play well with each other in the sandbox. Some of them like to overwhelm other ones. One of the commonly used ones often causes fermentation, as well as overwhelming the other boys. Saccharomyces does that all the time, and yet it was considered to be a very important and healthy bacteria. Well, it's not what we think it is. In fact, it overwhelms other healthy bacteria to try to take over everything and can cause more bloating. So we found that also you need the bacteria to be able to survive the stomach. They have to be specially created. And that's why you need patented strains of bacteria. And most symbiotics come that way, whether they're capsule, powder, or like ours, liquid. They come with letters and numbers after their name. They have actually been created to survive the stomach over 85%. The next is, and believe it or not, there is such a thing called next generation smart bacteria. This is not like 5G cell phone service. This is healthy stuff. Okay. Next generation smart bacteria actually have an ability to attach to the cells of the wall of your colon and work and attach to certain genes in those cells and live there more happily and adapt to you as an individual. So when you take Doctor's Biome, you're going to get a lower amount of biome in the gut because some will die off, like all biome does, but not an overwhelming amount because what's going in is staying in. Now you have a way of repopulating the wall of the gut to get yeast in balance again, strengthening your T cell system so you can fight the COVID virus better. Okay? So, and just to make life easy, if they want to learn more about this, they can go to Doctor's Biome, DoctorsBiome.com, and they can learn more about it. And remember, there's an expression, nothing cheap is good and nothing good is cheap. If you go out into a store and you want to buy a cheap water filter system that works in a pitcher, so it takes out some of the bad taste from the water, you're not getting healthy water. If you want to have a quality water system put into your house, you have to pay for it. And if you think you're getting away cheap buying something cheap, you're absolutely wrong. It's delusional. The same thing goes with probiotics. You can't get a cheap product, and it's delusional to think that something cheap is good. So with that in mind, if they'll contact me in my office, I'll give them a coupon code where they can get a discount. Simple as that. Just call my office up in the city, Dr. Robbins, ROBINS, 212-581-0101, and tell them I said to give them the coupon code for the Doctor's Biome, and they'll get a big savings. And that's for you, Alex. But on the other hand, now that we've repopulated the wall of the colon and strengthened the wall of the colon with good biome, and we're getting yeast in balance so our T cell system can be boosted, we have a problem because the blood is filthy. We live in a filthy world. If you don't have the kind of filter systems that Jose is trying to sell you, you're inhaling all sorts of horrible things with every breath. At the same time, you're going to ingest food and water that's going to contain bacteria and stuff. So you've got to strengthen your immune system. There's a lot of ways to do this. That's what vitamins and other things are important to do. There are 3 things that my patients are asked to do to make the therapy, the ozone therapy, successful. Be well hydrated. Drink 3 to 4 liters of healthy water each day. Vitamin C. Vitamin C is not a vitamin. Okay? It's not just a vitamin, it's a coenzyme. It's necessary for every healthy cellular reaction in every healthy cell of your body. Cancer does not utilize vitamin C. That's why vitamin C has been used to treat cancer. So you need vitamin C. Now, many people think taking 1 massive dose a day is all they should need to do. That's wrong. Your body can, presuming you take a high quality vitamin C that's bioabsorbable, the next is it's got to be bioavailable. That means that your cells need to be able to uptake it from the blood. Next, it has to be bioutilizable. So the body has to be able to take that form of vitamin C, and the cell has to be able to utilize it to facilitate all these different chemical reactions. Cheap vitamin C is cheap. I don't sell vitamin C, by the way. But cheap vitamin C is cheap. You need to find the vitamin C that you're not sensitive to or allergic to, and that's absorbable by your body, utilizable by your body. Okay? And they come out with different versions like liposomal Cs and things like that are made in forms that fit this bill. And you want to take it every couple of hours while you're awake. And you take as big a dose as your stomach will tolerate happily. If you're getting a little upset stomach from it, presuming you drank enough water with it, you took too much. Certainly, if you take way too much, you'll get diarrhea. I call it an inside-out cleansing, and that isn't fun. It's not unhealthy, but it's not fun. So you want to take as much vitamin C as you can take 5 or 6 times a day, stopping a couple of hours before bedtime, because you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night needlessly just to urinate. So water, vitamin C, 5 or 6 doses a day to stomach tolerance, 2 most important things, along with replenishing the biome in the gut. So those are the 3 things all the patients have to do, not 33. Now, if you also want to strengthen your immune system, there's so many other things you can take that will strengthen your immune system and protect you, for example, against the SARS-CoV-19 virus. For example, vitamin A and D, particularly vitamin D3. These also have been used around the world and have been getting wonderful beneficial effects against this. The key is prevention, not waiting until you're sick to now let's react and start doing something about it. Unfortunately, many people are reactive. They're not preventative. They'd rather wait and take action after they're in an emergency situation, they're in a crisis situation where their choices are few, versus doing something to prevent the crisis in the first place. 97 to 8% of the people that I treat are coming into me ill. Only 2 or 3% actually come in because they want to cleanse, detoxify their body, and boost their immune system so they attain what SCHO has been all about, a higher level of health to begin with. What we want to reach is wellness. And that's what people are reticent to do because it takes time, it takes some effort, and it takes some money. But if you don't do these things in advance, later on when you're ill, it's going to cost you more time, a lot more effort, and a huge amount of money to get well. And that's where people are sort of penny wise and pound foolish, as the cliche goes. They're reactive when they don't have, well, I don't have enough money, I don't make enough, I've been out of work and all this. Well, yes, that's true. But it's going to cost you more than what you do have, and then you're going to have to find a way to deal with it, or else you're going to fall back to the allopathic world where you're going to be given harmful pharmaceuticals and chemicals to try to fix a problem that they can't fix. Remember, they don't have an antiviral. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as an antiviral. There's only viral medications that can try and suppress certain viruses, but nothing that can eliminate it. The only medicine that we've ever found that can eliminate all viruses, funguses, yeast molds, bacterias, parasites, toxins, and harmful free radicals, and chelate toxic metal off nerve tissue, which regular chelation therapy can't do, and that's where all the damage is done, is ozone therapy. And one of the problems it suffers, it's because it does all those things. It's so versatile, it sounds too good to be true. And often when something sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Well, this is the exception to that rule. But that's what makes it, they call it the tomato effect. Tomato is a wonderful fruit. And people don't realize its value in many ways when you're getting healthy organic tomatoes. And it's because if you start to look at what tomatoes can have in them and the value they can offer you with the phytochemicals and phytoenzymes that are in it, it sounds too good to be true. So one doctor nicknamed it the tomato effect. And there are many things that fall into that category, ozone being one of them. It's so versatile, and it comes with virtually no adverse effects. In 30 years and 365,000 plus treatments, we've only had 2 patients that showed some sort of allergy sensitivity reaction that we had to stop giving it to them. And the side effects are enormous. Hair and nails grow healthier and faster. Skin takes on a healthier look because it gets rid of all sorts of skin problems. People fall asleep easier, sleep better, need less sleep, more energy all day long. It acts more endurance, great workouts in a gym right after a treatment if they can. Acts as a painkiller and an anti-inflammatory. Has circulation benefits that are amazing, powerful circulation benefits. In addition, It can stimulate the body to make abundant amounts of natural stem cells and exosomes, which counts for what I've always nicknamed repairing the unrepairable and fixing the unfixable. With all that versatility and with virtually no adverse effects, it sounds too good to be true, but it isn't. When used correctly, judiciously, by people who are well trained in doing this, this isn't something you should learn off YouTube and do at home. All right. But by doing it with medically trained professionals who are skilled with this, it can be the difference between life and death in some people, or more importantly, the quality of life. Half the people I treat have life-taking diseases. The other half of the people have what I call diseases and conditions that won't kill you, but will make you wish you were dead. In the last 4 weeks, I've had 87 phone calls, literally from patients from around the world. When I say that, to be honest, one from the Bahamas that came in and 2 from Holland. All the rest were from the US. And all on herpes, HSV 1 and 2, because we have an expression in this country, love may come and go, but herpes is forever. Not true. Ozone therapy has been proven not just to suppress herpes, but to actually eliminate it permanently, completely, once and for all, and even the legal definition of the word cure. HIV, HPV, a very serious problem men and women, particularly women, can get. All these viruses are destroyed by ozone. COVID, I've actually seen 11 post-COVID patients now, very successful in eliminating it. And the reason I say post-COVID is because if I took people in during an infection when they have a virulent infection and can give it to somebody else, New York City's health department would close me down. You can't do that. I had to wait till they were non-infectious anymore, but now suffering from the adverse effects of it. In fact, they're learning now that you don't just get rid of the virus when it seems to be gone. It's been laying dormant in people, and as your immune system, your T-cell system weakens more, it's mutated into a new strain, and it's coming out with new symptoms that you didn't even have when you first got it. And so we're finding that people are coming in now around the country and the world with this, and yet the news media has blacked out that ozone therapy would be successful against it. Larkin Hospital in Florida is a teaching institution that put in for an FDA IND. I know because I was part of the group of doctors that helped organize it. An IND means independent new drug study. So they put all the paperwork together to get a true independent, compassionate clinical trial to save lives with COVID. Well, the FDA sent them back letters saying that they have to do all these different things before they would permit it. Now, the hospital can do the clinical trial anyway. The FDA doesn't control how clinical trials are performed in the country. Each state has the right to control that. But if you want this to get FDA approval as an effective treatment for COVID, you have to go through their rigmaroles, which the drug companies are more than happy to do. Laboratory testing first in test tubes and petri dishes, in vitro as we call it, then animal testing, and then finally human trials. Now, that's the standard that we've set in this country for approving any new medicine. Ozone's been around for over a century, used around the world. But yet, to get it approved for the treatment of COVID, that's what they want these people to go through. And that's not an easy thing to do. And it costs, of course, millions of dollars to do these studies. Well, that's why drug companies, the big pharma, has it in it for that. You know, they're going to make the money back because it's patentable. Ozone is not a patentable medicine. Otherwise, it would be in every hospital already. It's made from an medical ozone generator for medical oxygen at the moment you need it. It cannot be stored. So it's not patentable. Big Pharma has no interest in it. And thus, that's why you didn't know about it. You don't know it exists. You don't know that it's being used around the world for over a century now, certainly 3/4 of a century in the modern ozone era, and that it can do all the things that I said it can do. But we're training doctors from all over the country, as well as the rest of the world, every single year. More and more doctors are using it, but we're talking about doctors in the hundreds, not in the hundreds of thousands, as there are allopathic doctors in this country. And that's the problem. Until we can get all the allopathic doctors using it, it's an issue. So there is a major Lyme organization, not for profit, that put up over $1 million, $1.25 million, for a major medical school's research department to test and see whether ozone therapy can destroy Lyme disease, which in essence is a real, true pandemic and has been forever. And it'll be first done with test tubes, then mice, special mice, and then what I've been doing for 30 years, human trials, using my method of ozone to show that it can destroy Lyme disease. That's bacterial infections and spirochetes. So here you have a way of getting FDA approval if you can spend the money to do it. And because of all the people whose lives I was able to save from Lyme, this organization finally recognized its existence, its importance, and we're now waiting for the clinical trial to get started because it was shut down in March when it was supposed to begin, because the whole laboratory at the medical school was shut down because of COVID. But it will begin again. This will eventually take time, and eventually it could become standard of care medicine for that. Once that happens, other doctors from around the country will start using it to treat other things. And ultimately, just through popular use, it will become studies being published. Eventually, it will become standard of care medicine for everything. And that's part of, and one of the most important life goals that I have. So I think that gives everybody an overview of this whole thing. One last thing about weight loss. So I mentioned how doctor's biome can replenish the good bacteria in the wall of the gut and help people who can't lose weight lose weight. Well, even still, that may not be enough, because if you don't have a properly functioning metabolic system in the body, because of various metabolic problems and infections, leaky gut, irritable bowel, Crohn's disease, blah, 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 and all the other things, you can't lose weight, even though you exercise correctly and diet correctly. Ozone therapy will help you lose weight. If you've been eating correctly and exercising correctly, but can't lose weight, ozone therapy done the way we do it will often make the difference, and you will start to lose weight. Vice versa. I have patients who come in, very famous black actress, Academy Award winning black actress. Can't mention her name. I shouldn't, even though she'll let me, who was losing weight rapidly, is now gained 12 pounds because we fixed what was going on inside her. Now, so that means it's neither a weight loss nor a weight gain medicine. But when you write what's wrong inside your digestive system, and you're eating correctly or exercising correctly to gain or lose weight, we've learned that's what will happen.
And the Nobel Prize.
Oh, yes.
Two things.
Incredible.
You know,
Standard of care.
I can't even say that, because if I say it, it sounds too, ego.
Well,
And
if Trump can get it, I know you can.
well, I'll tell you something very scary.
Yeah.
Since ozone is proven already to kill the COVID virus, and we have nothing else out there that'll work, and we're all in agreement on this call that you will all be getting COVID vaccinations through me via Zoom. So you'll all be protected. You understand, right? Well, when vaccines fail, and now he knows about ozone therapy. If he'll be willing to permit or push through an executive order a clinical trial through the military, which he has control over, and we were hoping to go to Okinawa for this. We were hoping to go to Guam for this, where they had outbreaks of COVID in the Marines, and prove that it would work, but it never happened. If he does this and he proves there's an effective treatment for it, and it gets put out worldwide, and now it gets unblacked out by the news media, and it shows that it can do what it's already being proven to do in 17 hospitals in Italy and Spain and in doctors' offices all around this country. This guy could get a Nobel Prize. He could get a Nobel Peace Prize. Could you imagine? He could get one. So it sounds scary. It may sound ludicrous, but that's what they give these prizes out for.
Well, you know, he just mentioned the medication, and you saw the crap storm that came after that. They turned that medication into the most political third rail that I've ever seen. And a lot of doctors who've used it swear by it. So if you have something like ozone, which is a controversial, you know, in the medical world, and he's going to stand behind it, I don't know what that's going to look like. I'd be nervous.
I totally agree. But, you know, think about it. Ozone is legal in New York State. My board knows that I do it. It's permitted by my board for me to treat people with it. It's also permitted for medical doctors to use it in New York State. It was tested in court with Atkins, and Atkins won. So we all have the right to use ozone in New York State. In fact, unless there's a law or a medical health rule prohibiting it, it's permitted in every state of the United States. It doesn't require FDA approval because the states control how medicine is practiced.
Yeah.
The key is doctor, do no harm. And when ozone therapy is performed correctly, you only get benefits, you do no harm.
Darlene has a question. Would it help with nasal poly diseases?
Nasal polyps or nasal?
I guess polyps.
Well, ozone destroys all tumors, whether they be benign or cancerous. Depending on where the tumor is in the nose, when you do intravenous ozone, a lot of it reaches the head. So it gets rid of almost all sinus infections of all kinds and sinus problems. Sometimes polyps have to be cauterized and removed that way because you got to get enough medicine to them. Sometimes when they're superficial, we can use ozonated oils on them and destroy them that way as well. So yes, it could be very beneficial, not just in helping eliminate them, but preventing them in the first place.
Yeah, so we definitely have an environment where we got to see what it looks like when our health is challenged a little bit. And we've been talking about this for 15 years now that I've been doing this. And Dr. Robbins a little longer, Jose maybe a few years less. Maybe, I don't know, about the same, I don't know. How long have you been doing this, Jose?
Since 2005.
All right, so it's also 15 years. And we've been talking about it for a long time, that it's important to strengthen your immune system. And the first place to start strengthening your immune system is to stop weakening it. You know, stop with 150 pounds of sugar a year. You know, enjoy a little sugar, but don't be insane. Filter your water, filter your air, eat good food, and then use natural medicine. You know, I just, you know, after all these years of doing this, I decided that, you know, the system, the healthcare system has so many perverse incentives embedded in there. And I think one of those reasons is because the government has learned how to profit from the sickness and disease. I mean, the trajectory of our sickness as a population here in the United States is absolutely off the hook. And it began that way in the early 70s when the obesity epidemic started to climb. And the obesity epidemic was a major contributor to a lot of the chronic illness that we have. And I think the misinformation, the propaganda is all driven by a system that has learned how to profit at $4 trillion per year. So it's a travesty. And the only way out is to really take personal responsibility, develop a relationship, a healthy relationship with a functional medicine doctor that can optimize you, coach you, make sure that you stay optimally well. And I think it's really important for people who count on their function, optimal function, brain function, energy function, emotional stability, to build their businesses, you know, entrepreneurs, executives, CEOs, moms, athletes, people like that. So, you know, I think what Dr. Robbins has been doing for 30 years now, 365,000, I can't keep up with you. I don't know how, every time, like I'll say 200,000 is 275. I'll say 300,000 is 365 already. I mean, that's unbelievable, Dr. Robbins.
Well, you know something, there's a very interesting thing that goes along with what you were just saying. It just reminded me of it. And even Tony Robbins talked about it. He picked up on this commercial many years ago also. And he said what a brilliant commercial it was. It was a commercial for an oil filter company called Fram Oil Filters. And in the foreground, there's a person, a mechanic, and he's in very clean mechanic's uniform. And he's holding up a $5 Fram oil filter. And in the background, there's a team of about 4 mechanics in a garage hoisting an engine out of a car. And he's saying, you need to keep your engine clean with a Fram oil filter. And if you don't keep it clean with this great filter, it's going to gum up your car, your engine's not going to work right, and you're going to start to have problems. And then he ended it with, pay me now, small amount of money for a Fram filter and prevention, or he turns around and points at the engine coming out of the car, or pay me later. And that's that's exactly what you've been saying, what Jose has been saying, what I've been saying. You're either going to do prevention and be smart about it and go through whatever it takes in terms of the financial cost, the time and the effort you need to put in to learn and to do it right, or you're going to be in a crisis situation where it's going to cost you 10 times that amount of time, 10 times that amount of energy, and 100 times that amount of money. And if you think that traditional medicine is going to save you, you got another thing coming.
Well, I think we understand
Bills.
that. What is it?
Bills.
Well, not only bills, it's also the suffering, right? I mean,
Well, the more you suffer, the more you pay.
yeah, it's not really a joyful life if you don't really do the right thing from the beginning, where then you can enjoy life because now your body is stronger and can survive all these diseases coming through, because some of them are inevitable. You know, you have to go through them because you're outside and, you know, you get contracted with certain things, viruses, bacteria, you have a little flu, like, you know, symptom and whatnot, and it goes away in a few hours or a day. But some people, because they're compromised, it'll take a week or two and they have to go to the doctor. And all the doctor can say, you know, oh, don't worry, it'll wear out. Here's some Tylenol and for the pain. It's like, you know, just to hide the pain blows my mind. Just to take medication to hide your pain and not really look at the cause of the pain, that bothers me.
Well, Jose, I'll have to tell you that it's not our fault. It's not the fault of the public. It's, you know, there's a $4 trillion system of healthcare focused on disease management with a $60 billion propaganda arm.
It's very obvious. It's very obvious. Once you wake up on these things, you hear about it, and then you kind of doing the analogy. Every time you pass by a pharmacy and they push the flu shot on you, right? And the doctor is like, do you have this shot, this shot, this shot, this shot? And you're like, what the heck? I mean, why do I have to do this? Well, you need it. Is flu season. And I'm like, no, I don't need it. I don't want that mercury in my blood.
Well, you see, I don't know why, but some people can see the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
You remember the movie The Matrix?
Oh yeah, love it.
I know. So some people can see the Matrix. Dr. Robbins can see the Matrix. You can see it. I can see it very clearly, but most people can't see the Matrix. And with $60 billion a year in commercials, public announcements, billboards, ads in magazines and newspapers, radio, constantly in front of us all the time, people begin to believe that the only way to prevent and reverse a disease is by taking a medication.
Right.
So, people are believers. I mean, so it really takes something for you to see beyond that. And I think what it takes for a lot of people is to develop some kind of a chronic illness. Like a lot of doctors, why did they get into functional medicine? Medical doctors. I mean, for 10 years, they were brainwashed in medical school, financed by drug companies, and taught that, pick a symptom, give it medication, pick a symptom, medication. So after 10 years of that, their brain is so, it's like in a vice. You can't change their mind. But if they develop some kind of a life-altering chronic condition, and then they try to apply this symptom-suppressing philosophy to care, and they don't get any results, like they won't, then they have to start opening their minds. So they go to Dr. Robbins, they go to some of our doctors, they start taking supplements, they start doing detoxification things, and they figure out that this is actually something that addresses. I hear a lot of medical doctors talk about that it's it's a tested kind of a process. What is that called? Evidence-based medicine. So they're all like, it has to be evidence-based medicine, but evidence-based medicine to do what? Manage your disease?
Exactly.
To manage your disease for the rest of your life? I'm not interested in evidence-based medicine. I'm interested in results-based medicine. Like, you have a condition, give me the medicine to completely reverse that condition. And that's what Dr. Robbins does. And that's what you do, Dr. Jose and Dr. Yelena. You, by optimizing people's air and water, you probably can prevent more disease than any of those medical doctors can. So yeah, I think I would make you an honorary physician, Jose and Yelena. What do you think, Doctor? Is that appropriate?
I like
Without a
it.
doubt. No, you're joking. You're saying it in a light air, but you got to realize something. Stephen Wright is a comedian, very brilliant, witty comedian. And one of his witticisms is, do you realize half the people you know are below average? Well, that means that half the Americans in this country have a below average IQ.
Mm-hmm.
That's what average means, below average. Therefore, they're very easily manipulated because they grow up as children to be told, this is the paradigm you're going to live in. This is how you're going to be treated. This is what you're going to do. It's the other half of the Americans that are above average IQ that are going to listen to this show and the other shows that SCHO puts on. And it's up to them to do one more thing. And this is what I've seen. I'm into functional medicine from the days that it wasn't even called that. The word wasn't even in existence. I started out teaching surgery, but by 1977, working with Gary Null, I started to turn into a natural medicine doctor, then a holistic medicine doctor, then a complementary medicine doctor, then alternative medicine doctor, an integrative medicine doctor, and now I'm a functional medicine doctor. The name has changed, but what we do is the same kind of thinking in medicine. And what I've seen over this half a century, just close to it, that I've been doing this, is that people don't take action. They listen to this. They attend the lectures. They buy the books. They listen to everything they can now on the internet, but they don't take action. They need to do something. They need to take action. And the basics are put in healthy water in your house.
Yeah,
That's,
exactly.
if you do nothing else, that's the most important thing I think you could do.
I agree 100%.
And on top of that, and sorry to interrupt you, Alex, the fact that you have a system that is protecting you and your family and your appliances, if you think of it that way, and you have to like not worry anymore about which water to drink, where is it from, have to get the bottles, and is this one cheaper, is there a special, is my son or my daughter, my wife, my husband getting it, oh, I have no water today, now why, it's like, and where has this bottle been from, if it's coming from Maine, supposedly, like, the spring water and so forth, and in the winter, if it has been through harsh temperatures, either the summer or the winter, so you have the plastic, the people touching it. And now actually I have a picture, I would love to share it, but I'm not going to do that. My latest client, he's calling me, he's like, Jose, I need to get rid of this bottle delivery. First of all, it's very, very expensive because it's in a glass jar, and most of us know which brand it is, but basically it was full of mold inside, like floaters. And he's like, Jose, that looks like microplastics. And I looked at close and I'm like, that's not microplastics. So I took a picture. I'm like, well, I got to at least, send this back to them or something. But long story short, they're getting my system. And it's like, you cannot trust it. Now it's like the same thing where, the water is treated at the district. Yes, they have all these advanced systems. They're running out of space in terms of real estate space, like actual physical space, to put a bigger machine to remove, contaminants that are new now and that are known for the public, that they want to start treating it. So they have also limitations there. Nonetheless, the fact that these things fail, and they don't tell everybody when it fails, because otherwise they'll get slapped, they'll get fined. So the less people know, the better it is for them. They keep their jobs and so forth. Oh yeah, everything is hunky-dory, because nobody can tell, because nobody's going to die right away from it, So all these things happen behind doors, and you don't see it, you don't feel it, you don't smell it, you don't taste it. It comes to your house, sometimes a little discolored, maybe a little stronger smell. You're like, that's fine because I'm used to it. Don't get used to it. It's not good for you. You need to remove that stuff. That's poison.
Jose,
And one last thing regarding now going back to air, Stony Brook actually came out in about a week ago in Newsday. They're doing a 5-year study on air pollution in this area, Long Island, New York City, the tri-state area, because of the high levels of disease, of lung disease. And so something is happening, and even they are looking after to see what kind of chemicals are in the air that is affecting all these people. And it's used, and if you look at like automatic messaging systems from doctor's office, I got one, I think it was yesterday or today, saying, hey, you're asthmatic, are you taking your asthma? They're pushing these things. They're pushing medication, even if you don't need it. And you go to every single home, and it's something is full of medication just in case they need it, especially like antibiotics and such things. And it's crazy how people just take it and don't even think of the results, right?
So I would say that, if you have a clean water, clean air, vitamin C, vitamin D, ozone treatment,
stay active,
you have nothing to be afraid of with this virus. That's my personal feeling. I was in Brooklyn today. I spent the day in Brooklyn, downtown. And I have to tell you, I was very surprised to see like all the people on the street, people riding bicycles, children, everybody wears a mask. It's like entering the Twilight Zone. I'm the only one who walks around without a mask.
It's crazy.
And it feels like I entered a different country. Really, it's unbelievable. I don't know how they got all these young people to wear
Brainwashed.
masks all the time outside, doctor.
What about people driving in the cars wearing masks? You by yourself and you wear a mask. What's the point?
So it just boggles my mind. It just boggles my mind.
Masks are going to be around forever now. I don't believe they're ever going to be gone.
No, come
And
on, stop it. They're not going to be.
We'll see if I'm wrong. And by the way, Jose, you're right and you're wrong about one of the things you said. Yes, these water treatment plants can be very sophisticated and put out ultra clean water for us if you were to take it from the tap at the plant. But then it gets transported through pipes that have been around for God knows what part of a century. Then it's going to go through homes. My home was built in 1957. Who knows what's leaving in those pipes? That's why you've got to get the source of the water is where your home is, where you draw it from your sink. And if you didn't purify it, at least to the point where it's coming out your sink, your shower, to a point, you're getting horrible stuff in the water. And that's why I have to have a special system just for drinking and cooking. Because even the purified water that you give me, if it isn't re-purified for my drinking and cooking purposes, it's dirty.
Right, because your pipes may have some even traces of lead from the fittings, from the soldering. But even at the plant, they add all these chemicals to treat the water to make sure it looks clear, and that's actually a poison, slowly but surely.
And
definitely, it makes it worse when it gets to your house.
And we have the highest breast cancer rates in all of the world, of all, probably the world, but certainly of the U.S. here on Long Island. Beth Page being one of the focuses on how we've damaged our aquifer with all the chemicals that we put into onto our lawns and everything else, everything that we're flushing down the toilet, as you pointed out. All this is not cleaned out of the water as much as we would like to believe that it is. And that's what people are drinking. And that's why I say one of the most important things people can do is drink 3 to 4 liters of healthy water every day. And I should be promoting ozone, and I'm promoting water, because I really believe that is a basic element that all of us need to have very strongly.
Well, guys, I want to say that I think we did an excellent job here today. Our mission really is to inspire and educate and provide some light in the midst of all this darkness and misinformation that's out there. And I think we all do it from a very authentic place, because personally, I know what it's like not to have my health and how devastating it is. And I know people are walking around with zero hope in their heart because they were told that there's no cure for you. Well, there's no cure in that particular model of disease management. But if you keep searching and you keep looking, you have to eventually find the answer. Seek and ye shall find, right? Knock.
Yep. Absolutely.
Et cetera, et cetera. So if there's a cure, you're going to find it, but you got to look in a different place sometimes. They say that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, they actually have a term for this kind of condition.
Insanity, huh?
So I want to thank you, Jose and Yelena. You guys did really great.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
I've never heard anybody selling water so successfully and so believably as you do. So if this whole ozone thing doesn't work out for you, you can just sell water filtration systems.
We'll join forces here.
Well, think about it. He sells water and air, and I sell gas.
Exactly right.
All natural ingredients.
So I'll let you guys say a final word, and then I'll just wrap it up, and we'll publish this tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah, so basically, anyone can reach us at purifiedsolutions.net. You can call us also at the direct number here in the office in Long Island, New York at 631-482-7792. You can email us at info@purifiedsolutions.net. And basically, if you have any questions, doesn't matter what time what day, even a Sunday morning, Sunday night, doesn't matter. As long as it's someone that calls us and they leave a message, we'll call them back or we'll pick up the phone, because these numbers, they reach the office. And if we're not in the office, it'll reach our cell phones, because we want to make sure that we are here for you guys. So any questions whatsoever, it doesn't have to be to purchase anything.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Elena.
Thank you.
And for me, I can be reached. Well, you can look at my website, Ozone Doctor, OZONEDOCTOR.net. And you could reach me on an email. That's ozonedoctor.netnet. My email is ozonedoctor@yahoo.com, ozonedoctor@yahoo.com, or call my office at 212-581-0101. That's 212-581-0101. And we'll be very happy to get back to you. And one, like Jose, either I pick up the phone when people call me, or we leave messages and I call everybody back. Been doing that for years.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say that the most beautiful, buoyant, powerful creation on this planet is not a tree, it's not a bush, it's not a field of flowers, it's not the mountain, it's not the ocean. It's you, the human being. And whatever you have to do to get to the root cause of your chronic illness, you got to do it, you got to invest, and you are definitely worth the effort every time. So thank you so much for joining us. Darlene, a pleasure. Dr. Robbins, Yelena, Jose, have a great night, and I'll see you guys next time. God bless.
And thank you.
Great night, everybody. Stay safe and be healthy.
Stay safe and be well. Bye-bye now.
Amen.
Bye now.
Bye.